Welcome, brave souls, to Fear File Chronicles, your one-way ticket to spine-chilling stories and terrifying tales. Tonight, we'll be diving into the darkest corners of the human mind with a story, Help Needed, penned by the twisted mind of a talented yet sadly unknown author. Together, we'll explore the unexplained and face our deepest fears. But before we begin, if you enjoy trembling in terror, be sure to hit that like button, share this video with your fellow fear fanatics, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click the bell notification so you never miss an eerie episode. Your support truly means the world to us. So feel free to leave a comment below to join the Fear File Chronicles community. Now, without further ado, let's unravel the mysteries of the unknown together as we delve into tonight's fear-inducing story, Help Needed. Dim the lights and prepare yourself for a chilling journey into the Fear File Chronicles. To whom it may concern, this message is of the utmost importance. Please do not disregard it. I am not certain on which website you will find this, whoever you are. It is likely something submission-based, and I hope it is one where it remains posted. Regardless, it is imperative that you continue reading. I will explain why shortly, but first, some context is in order. My brother was a brilliant man, both in talent and intellect. Growing up in his shadow was challenging. We were raised in the same nurturing upper-middle-class environment, with two loving parents who encouraged us at every turn. However, it seemed as though there was nothing I could excel at that he wouldn't outperform me in. Julian was not a savant. He held his own in any situation, whether that was an exam or a social gathering. Rarely was he not the most intelligent or the most popular person in the room. Understandably, I harbored some jealousy. My primary source of frustration was our academic performance. I am not unintelligent, even compared to Julian, but I underachieved for a significant period during my adolescence. The cause of this is unclear to me. Perhaps it was due to associating with the wrong crowd or daydreaming excessively. Despite my inherent intelligence, I struggled to harness and apply it effectively for a long time. The frequent phrase, "if you'd only apply yourself," echoed throughout my youth. I suspect some readers can relate. It wasn't until many years later that the sentiment truly resonated with me. I never detested Julian outright, but I must confess that there was a burgeoning seed of resentment for him in my heart. This was especially true as we matured and his natural aptitude began to truly flourish. We both developed an interest in computer science from a young age, likely influenced by our father, who worked for Microsoft before the company ceased operations. I still recall those evenings as children when he would engage us with the complexities of the code he was working on, while other children our age would likely have found this dull. We remained captivated, our minds intrigued by the endless possibilities of his profession. One of Julian's other interests, which I didn't share, was a fascination with online horror fiction, although he outgrew this by his late teens. Julian was aware of my internal grudge. For the most part, he was indifferent towards it. We were never estranged, but he wasn't going to let my dissatisfaction hinder his success. While I don't blame him, I recognize that this was arguably Julian's Achilles heel. He was too self-assured, too confident. When we transitioned into adulthood, we took separate paths. He pursued his studies at Harvard, while I dropped out of a nondescript local university. Following this divergence, I faced some challenges. My parents were understandably disappointed. They didn't sever ties, but interactions with them became disheartening as they waited for me to regain direction in life. At family gatherings, I gritted my teeth as Julian shared stories about developing state-of-the-art virtual reality hardware and pushing the boundaries of technology. All the while, I was struggling to stay afloat as the IT technician at an underwhelming school in a town I despised. This only made my situation feel more daunting. A significant shift occurred shortly after I moved into my first apartment. Julian showed up unexpectedly one dewy morning. his arms laden with equipment and a broad smile on his face. We conversed, and he assured me that he was about to demonstrate something that would astound me. As he busied himself setting up his equipment in my living room, I observed with anticipation. Once everything was prepared, he activated my computer and handed me a thin plastic headset with exposed wires. 2 nodes hung from either side of the device, fitting comfortably over my temples. As I reclined on the sofa and gazed at the monitor, he gave me a straightforward instruction.
Go ahead and type something into Google.
But I don't have a keyboard.
You don't need one.
At Julian's prompting, I thought about the action, and to my surprise, it materialized on the screen. The word something appeared in the search box, and my jaw dropped in disbelief. Initially, I suspected it was some sort of elaborate prank. However, multiple trials yielded the same outcome. I found that I could not only search the internet, but perform any task within the computer's capabilities, merely by thinking it. As this was happening, I perceived a sort of mental projection, as though the process was occurring within my own mind. It was not flawless, but it was nothing short of astonishing.
You're one of the first people to try it.
He told me once I had experimented sufficiently.
We're calling it NeuroWorks, or something to that effect.
The sense of awe never truly left me. I realized then that my petty resentment, the dissatisfaction I had felt after years of feeling overshadowed, was insignificant compared to my brother's accomplishments. I would be doing the world a disservice by not assisting him. After a few drinks and some shared laughter, Julian left that night. And the following day, I re-enrolled in a computer science program. 4 years later, I graduated with honors, and Julian hired me to work at his company. Perhaps there was an element of nepotism involved, but that is beside the point. The ensuing years were nothing short of a whirlwind. As I pursued my re-education, Julian collaborated with a group of premier neuroscientists, experts who supplemented his understanding and undertook tasks beyond his capacity. At first, I was completely overwhelmed, but as my knowledge expanded, I began to grasp the complexity of our work and my spirit soared. The sensation of being productive, of contributing to something significant, was nothing short of exhilarating, especially after wasting so many years of my life. Although I never reached Julian's level of expertise, in time, I became a valuable contributor to the NeuroWorks project. After an intense period of relentless work, the device came to full fruition and was launched globally. The commercial release was an international triumph, and we made a fortune. Once fully optimized, the device was surprisingly inexpensive to manufacture and deploy. Consequently, billions of households and businesses worldwide adopted it. As anticipated, it revolutionized how we live and work in the virtual world. Global productivity and efficiency increased exponentially. Even now, as I type this message hands-free, I have 2 nodes attached to each side of my head. As trite as it might sound, it genuinely felt like we were living in the future. Honestly, I would have been content stopping there. I could have relocated to a verdant, sun-drenched locale and spent my days delivering TED Talks and sipping cocktails on a villa balcony, blissfully untroubled. But not Julian. As usual, Julian had his sights set on the next frontier of progress. Just a few months after the launch of NeuroWorks, he unveiled his next visionary idea.
Consciousness splicing.
He announced the first time he sat down to explain his concept. We were seated outside a chic, gentrified cafe in London, each nursing a coffee.
The next stage of human learning, or perhaps even existence as we know it, NeuroWorks, in comparison to this, well, it's merely a stepping stone. If we get this right, we won't just be able to operate computers with our minds. We'll be able to think like them too.
His idea was challenging to grasp. Could you clarify what you mean? I asked.
Consider what makes us sentient. Our minds, our passion, our free will. Elements a machine lacks. How can they be enhanced? What we lack naturally as a species can be found in a computer. Processing power, infinite memory, objectivity, and access to the collective library of human knowledge, stretching back thousands of years. Yet there are limitations. Computers can't genuinely think for themselves, not yet. They require input and direction. If we could intersect the strengths of humans and machines, bridge the gap that separates us.
As he spoke, Julian stirred his drink. He had a habit of avoiding eye contact when deep in thought, as if the sight of your perplexed face would somehow derail his train of thought. Okay, but isn't this purely theoretical? Aren't we centuries away from achieving this? I mean, creating a neural link between a person and an operating system is one thing.
I think it's possible.
He sighed after a moment, retrieved a napkin, and produced a pen from his pocket. As he sketched a crude but complex diagram, I waited. It concerned the relationship between time, space, and information. More philosophical than scientific, I recall.
The internet is a formidable tool. Our current means of controlling and accessing it, even with NeuroWorks, are inferior. We just need another breakthrough, and that could pave the way for unimaginable possibilities. Imagine being able to traverse decades online, going back and forth at will.
Sounds easier than it actually is.
But it could be achievable.
I'm skeptical. Not within our lifetime, at least. Besides, it sounds perilous. The potential for things to go awry, the variables. It's frightening. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We should walk before we run. Julian fell silent after that. The conversation lingered with me over the next few years as we focused on maintaining NeuroWorks, issuing regular updates and improvements as society started reshaping itself around its advent. There was speculation about when the next major breakthrough from Julian's company would arrive, but he remained reticent on the matter. That's when he started behaving. Oddly, our shared free time diminished, and he began missing reservations and family events. When I confronted him, he brushed it off, claiming he was a workaholic.
You all mean the world to me, but so does this job.
I tried to accept his explanation, but I had an inkling that he was concealing something beyond my comprehension. I planned to confront him, but I waited too long. One night, he unexpectedly called me. I remember waking from a fitful dream to answer the call in the dark room. The metallic surface of my phone was cold and smooth against my sweaty palm as I responded.
Meet me at this address in half an hour. Be quick.
Before I could respond, the call ended. A notification with an unfamiliar postcode appeared on the screen. I dutifully complied with Julian's request, dressing quickly and driving to the location. The address led to a dilapidated warehouse in one of the city's lower-income neighborhoods, where real estate was cheapest. I parked and stepped out into the cold, chastising myself for not bringing a thicker jacket. The correct building was not immediately apparent until I spotted a flash of light through a broken window in the distance. As I cautiously approached, I noticed the main door was completely boarded up, so I slipped through a gap in the brickwork. Inside, I noticed a makeshift lab similar to our setup at NeuroWorks, as if someone had transported one of our labs into this derelict warehouse. I was bewildered as I observed the team of scientists working around a central machine. A few faces were familiar, but they seemed preoccupied. I'm sure they were expecting me. It took me a moment to spot Julian amidst the clutter of machinery in the center of it all. His body was one organic component amid an artificial framework. He lay on his back, arms spread wide like a crucifixion, sweat dotting his brow. Shirtless, with wires trailing from his arms and a mesh cap atop his shaved head connected to a monitor. He was a sight I will never forget. The wires cascaded off the side of his bed, feeding into a massive steel machine beside him. Without context, I might have believed he'd been abducted and experimented on. From his lower vantage point, he looked at me and said,
"You're late."
With a grin, I did not return his smile. "Julian, what on earth is going on?"
I'm sorry for not informing you earlier. I didn't want you to worry. However, it's crucial that you see this.
His words left me speechless.
Today, we're about to make a breakthrough that will revolutionize the course of humanity, and you need to be here to witness it. So brace yourself. We're commencing now.
His declaration reverberated in the room, triggering the scientists to assume their positions. I observed them launching a countdown sequence, managing the machinery from a grand control panel. They operated efficiently, using brief, precise gestures and muttering intricate jargon that I couldn't comprehend. Subconsciously, I retreated to what seemed like a safe distance. Moments later, my mouth felt dry, and a subtle ringing began to resonate in my ears. I initially attributed it to anxiety, but it soon became clear that some sort of static filled the room, causing a painful shock when my hand brushed against the polished edge of a table. The source of this disturbance appeared to be centered around Julian. His eyes were shut tightly, reflecting intense concentration. A low humming sound filled the room, felt more than heard, gradually increasing in pitch. A sudden headache gripped me, and I could feel my hair standing on end under my flat cap. I felt a wave of panic when I noticed the scientists arguing. I tried to voice my concerns, but the ringing in my ears had morphed into a deafening bout of tinnitus. Something was terribly wrong. Julian, once still and focused, was convulsing violently, frothing at the mouth, struggling against whatever held him. I rushed to his side.
"Don't touch me,"
he managed to croak out. His frenzied, wide-eyed look convinced me to back off. I turned my attention to the scientists. "What are you maniacs doing to him?" I shouted. "Turn off that machine, now!" One of them pushed me away. His lips were moving, but the machine's noise drowned his words. Fear gripped everyone as the machine's sound became intolerable. Communication was impossible. Julian appeared to be in extreme distress. Beside him, a previously inactive monitor now displayed a rapidly changing, hypnotic array of shapes and colors. If you've ever seen a computer running without its RAM, it was similar, yet more chaotic and vibrant. The mesmerizing display held my attention until a terrifying image began to form. It was Julian. I know it sounds absurd, but Julian's face materialized from the chaos of text and code. His eyes bulged and his mouth gaped open, an expression mirrored in reality as he lay on the table, struggling to breathe. The sight churned my stomach. Abruptly, the machine shut down, taking with it the monitor's display and oppressive interference. Julian's eyes grew dull, his complexion paled, and he fell back, letting out a huge exhale. When he failed to draw another breath, two scientists checked his pulse. A shared headshake confirmed my worst fear. He was gone. The rest of the night passed in a daze, and I didn't speak until morning. I was sent home in a taxi with assurances that they would handle the situation. Upon reaching home, I broke down, furious and bitter about being kept in the dark about this tragic end. The next day, Julian's team summoned me for a private meeting. To preserve the company's reputation, they planned to cover up the incident. My initial impulse was to expose the truth, but I was persuaded otherwise. Perhaps you'll judge me, but I had no evidence, and it was evident that the scientists had merely been following Julian's directives. Going public would have been a losing battle, as they had already begun eradicating all traces of the incident. Despite the circumstances, I felt obligated to respect Julian's wishes and continue with NeuroWorks. In time, I forgave them. Julian's death was due to a malfunction with the equipment, not their intentional actions. We moved on from this incident and shifted our focus to safer technological endeavors, such as media creation. That's when we started noticing anomalies. The autopsy revealed that Julian's death was not due to an expected internal injury like a heart attack or aneurysm. Instead, all the electrical signals in his body had simultaneously vanished, rendering his brain inactive as if switched off. This revelation was kept under wraps. NeuroWorks, now one of the most influential companies, ensured that Julian's death was attributed publicly to a stroke caused by high cholesterol levels. However, it's intriguing, given what transpired afterwards. We started experiencing issues with a malicious software infiltrating our computer system. Initially, we feared data theft, but our intrigue grew as we learned more about the virus. named Whirstar by those affected by it since the dawn of the internet. Oddly, there is no formal documentation of its existence. Whirstar, it seems, is an anomaly that transcends time. We suspect what's happening. While some were skeptical, a recent event has nearly confirmed our theory. A few months ago, I found a text file on my computer named Whirstar Gift. Our analysis of the extensive code revealed it to be a formula for virtual communication with the past. So here we are, in 2050, reaching out to the mid-2010s. We assure you, this isn't an attempt to alter history. We just need your assistance. The text file also contained a message that we are unable to read due to its compatibility with an outdated editor. We think our inability to view it has led to our current communication. In your time, it should still be legible. You may need to use a source editor, but it should be relatively straightforward. We hope you can communicate back. We've tested this with random forums, even receiving responses from 2012. We understand the risks, but this is our only chance. I apologize for not being more specific throughout this message. I've tried to keep it concise. Maybe this is futile. The technology we're using is still in its infancy, so there's a chance this message might not reach you. But it's been 10 years since Julian died, and I yearn to see my brother again. If we can establish contact, we might even find a way to bring him back. So please, for the love of God, can you tell us what the message says? Where is Julian? Well, my friends, we've reached the end of tonight's chilling tale, Help Needed, by a talented yet sadly unknown author. I hope you've enjoyed our descent into darkness, and that you'll carry a piece of the Fear File Chronicles with you as you drift into uneasy dreams. If our story left you shivering and shaking, don't forget to like this video, share it with others who crave a good scare, and subscribe to the Fear File Chronicles for more haunting horrors. Remember to hit the bell notification so you're always among the first to know when a new nightmare awaits. As always, we appreciate your support and would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Sharing your fears and frights with us truly means a lot, so don't be shy to engage with our sinister community. Until next time, remember to embrace the darkness, for it is within the shadows that our most terrifying stories are born. Good night, and stay scared.